Have you ever caught yourself dodging phone calls or turning down invitations more than you used to? Maybe someone asks if you want to join a gathering, and instead of feeling excited, you feel tired, not physically, but emotionally, and then comes that quiet voice in your head whispering, "What's wrong with me?" Let me stop you right there, because nothing is wrong with you. What you're feeling is more common than you think. In fact, it's part of a natural shift that happens as we grow older. You're not becoming rude, you're not broken. And you're certainly not alone. More and more people, especially after 60, begin to notice a growing desire to be alone, or to surround themselves with only a few deeply trusted people. And while that might feel strange at first, there's a powerful psychological reason behind it. Today, we're going to talk about those reasons. Why you may find yourself pulling away from people more often, and why that's not only normal, but in many cases, a sign of wisdom, growth, and emotional self-preservation. Let's start with something subtle, but deeply powerful. Your tolerance for surface-level relationships begins to fade. In your younger years, it was easier to maintain a wider circle. Work, social events, neighbors, school friends, distant relatives. There was always someone around. And back then, it made sense. You were building connections, chasing opportunities, learning about the world and about yourself. But after 60, your priorities shift. You've learned what truly matters and what drains your energy. Shallow conversations, forced smiles, or being around people who don't make you feel seen. It all starts to wear thin, not because you've grown colder, but because you've grown smarter with your emotional energy. You realize that your time is precious, your energy is sacred, and small talk just doesn't feed your soul the way it used to. That change in tolerance is a quiet act of wisdom. You're not withdrawing, you're refining your circle. You're choosing depth over noise. And that's something to be proud of. The second reason is one many people don't talk about openly. You've learned to enjoy your own company more than ever before. There's a kind of peace that comes with age, a comfort in your own skin. After years of giving to others, raising families, helping friends, being the rock for so many, there comes a moment when you start to return home to yourself. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels full, full of reflection, full of memories, full of you. You might sit in your favorite chair by the window, cup of tea in hand, and just be. And that's not loneliness. That's a kind of contentment that many people never experience because they're too busy chasing noise. When you've lived through decades of life ups, downs, heartaches, and joy, you begin to see that your own company can be the most healing, nurturing space there is. And that makes you less dependent on constant social interaction to feel fulfilled. This is not something to feel guilty about. It's not something you need to fix. It's something you can honor. One of the most overlooked reasons people begin stepping back from others as they age is this: you've become more emotionally selective, and that's a good thing. When you were younger, you may have tolerated drama, misunderstandings, or people who constantly drained your energy. You may have believed it was your job to keep the peace, to say yes when you really wanted to say no, or to show up even when your heart wasn't in it. But somewhere along the way, you outgrew that. You began to realize that peace of mind is far more valuable than pleasing people. And so, the filter around your emotional life began to tighten. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to justify your boundaries, or to stretch yourself thin just to keep others comfortable. That's not being selfish, it's being wise. Because at this stage in life, you know your energy is not unlimited. You protect it. You use it carefully. You pour it into people who lift you up, not those who pull you down. And naturally, that makes your social circle smaller, but also more meaningful. Another reason this change happens is tied to something many older adults experience, but rarely talk about out loud: a growing sensitivity to emotional overstimulation. Let's face it, crowds, noise, fast-paced conversations, and group dynamics can be exhausting, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. What once felt exciting might now feel overwhelming. Not because you've lost your spark, but because your nervous system is quieter now, and it prefers gentler rhythms. Maybe you've found yourself leaving a gathering early, or skipping one altogether. Maybe loud voices or chaotic environments just make you want to retreat. And maybe, just maybe, you've questioned yourself for it, thinking, was I always like this? The truth is, you probably weren't, but that's part of evolving. As we age, our brains crave simplicity. Our hearts crave calm. We stop seeking the high of constant stimulation and start savoring slow moments, meaningful conversations, and emotional safety. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. A beautiful sign that you've become more in tune with what your soul needs to feel safe, whole, and balanced. And sometimes, this means declining invitations, limiting your social calendar, or even letting go of long-standing connections that no longer feel aligned with who you are today. None of that makes you antisocial. It makes you aware you're no longer chasing connections to fill a void. You've filled that void with your own strength, your own presence, and your own wisdom. You don't need a room full of people to feel worthy. One heartfelt conversation, one moment of quiet understanding, that's more than enough. As we continue exploring this journey, we'll take a closer look at how the past and the emotional scars it leaves behind can also play a powerful role in shaping the way we relate to others in our later years. With every passing year, you carry more stories, more memories, and yes, more emotional weight. Some of those memories are beautiful, others bittersweet, but some are quietly painful. They're the ones you rarely talk about, the betrayals, the disappointments, the friendships that slowly faded, the loved ones who left too soon. And over time, those emotional imprints shape how open or guarded you are with people. This brings us to another reason why you might start pulling away socially: emotional self-protection. You've been through enough to know that not every smile is sincere, not every connection is safe. So, without even realizing it, you may begin to keep people at arm's length, not out of bitterness, but out of self-preservation. You've learned that your emotional energy is not a resource to be spent recklessly, and more importantly, you've learned how to protect your peace. This doesn't mean you walk around with a heavy heart. Quite the opposite. It means you've developed quiet courage, the courage to say no to what doesn't serve you. The wisdom to recognize when a relationship drains you more than it nourishes you. And the strength to walk away from patterns that once kept you stuck. Sometimes that means turning inward more, choosing solitude not because you're hiding from life, but because you're finally at peace with yourself. You're no longer seeking validation in the eyes of others. You've already earned your own approval. And let's not forget one more, subtle but very real reason for stepping back socially. You've shifted from quantity to quality. You don't need 20 friends anymore. You need maybe 2 or even just one who truly understand you. The need for popularity fades, and what remains is the craving for authenticity, realness, depth. You've reached a stage where surface-level connections just don't cut it. You'd rather sit in silence with someone who truly sees you than make small talk with a room full of people who don't. You've stopped trying to impress anyone. You're not chasing anyone's attention. You're simply living your truth and letting the right people find you there. And if fewer people are in your life now than before, that's not always a loss. Sometimes it's a clearing, a reset, a gift, because the space you create by walking away from the wrong energy makes room for something far more meaningful. So, if you've been questioning yourself for becoming quieter, more selective, or more withdrawn as you age, please hear this. You are not broken. You are evolving. You're listening to your inner compass more closely than ever before. And that, in itself, is a form of freedom. Here's to protecting your peace, to honoring your needs, to being brave enough to choose depth over distraction, calm over chaos, and authenticity over approval. You've earned that choice.